Jai Nrsingadev, 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 Jai Nrsingadev. Nrsingadev, 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 Jai Nrsingadev. Jai Jai Nrsingadev, 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 Jai Nrsingadev. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Everyone I can see is in very jolly mood. That's very good. That is Krishna consciousness. To be in good spirits all the time. Brahmabhutta prasanatma. Krishna says that when we have achieved the Brahmabhutta stage, the identity of the self beyond the body, then prasanatma, one is happy all the time. So in Krishna consciousness, our program is to keep this prasanatma, this bliss of Krishna consciousness, alive, always, 24 hours a day. And this is also why we're having class. Some people, they come to the temple. We can see they come to the temple for the chanting and for the prasadam. They can understand that these are very happy activities, blissful. But then when it comes to class, sitting and hearing the class, and they become restless. This is philosophy, and it's so hard to think. Thinking is hard work. So, of course, even a person who is not philosophically inclined at all, still if they have a strong taste, a pure taste for Krishna consciousness, then they can be successful simply in chanting the holy name, taking Krishna prasadam. These activities, Srila Prabhupada did say there are 9 processes of devotional service, and you can become perfect. In one lecture, he was explaining like this: you can become a perfect devotee by executing all 9 nicely, or 8, or 7, or 6, or 5, and he went all the way down to 1. You see, even only one of the 9 processes. If you execute it nicely, that means, because the essence of Krishna consciousness is, of course, Krishna bhakti rasa, a taste for devotion to Krishna. So, in any one process, if we acquire that rasa, then that is enough to become successful. But the thing is, for most of us, you see, we're talking about someone who has some rati, some attraction, some ruchi, some taste. But the fact is that we have not come up to that platform. There are these stages. And it begins with Shraddha, Adau Shraddha, Tatta Sadhu Sangha. You acquire some faith in Krishna somehow or other, and you develop that faith by association with devotees. And then one can be admitted into the bhajana kriya. Kriya means prescribed activity, and of course bhajan means worship of Krishna. So then when one has become purified by cultivating faith within the Vaishnava Sangha, then one can be accepted for initiation into the formal activities of bhajana kriya under the direction of spiritual master. And then what follows is anartha nibriti. Then the obstacles to our pure devotional life, they're overcome by serious practice of this bhajana kriya for a long time. And Prabhupada said basically this means to follow the 4 regulative principles. This is anartha nibriti, to become established in the 4 regulative principles, well established, steady, not wavering, not shaking, not sometimes falling down and again trying. but steady. This is anartha nivritti. And then after that, then comes what? Then comes nishta, then firmness. And then after that, ruchi, taste. And then asakti, real attachment. And then bhava, ecstasy. And then finally prema, love of Godhead. So you see this ruchi and asakti, ruchi, taste, like taste for chanting. Asakti, attachment to chanting. Just this one thing, if we have it, and then we're successful. But that's a very high stage. That is beyond anartha nivritti. That is beyond nishta. Nishta means anushilanam, from another verse. To be solid. To be solid devotee. Nothing can shake such a devotee who has this nishta. He's immovable in his vow to serve Krishna. So you see, this is advanced state. So it is not a good policy to presume that I am an advanced devotee. It is not a good policy to plan out our spiritual lives on the assumption that I am a very advanced devotee. In fact, we see from the prayers of our greatest acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, his songs, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they're not taking that position. They're not presenting themselves as, although they were advanced, very, very, Nitya Siddha Vaishnavas, very exalted personalities, Mahabhagavatas. But Prabhupada used to say, for our instruction, then they would present themselves as meek, humble and fallen. So, Hari Hari Bipale, Janama Goinanu, Manusha Janama Pai, Radha Krishna Nabajya, Janya Shunya Vishakhainu. Narottam Das Thakur, this is his prayer. That I have taken this human form of life which is meant for this bhajana kriya, this activity of service to Krishna. That's why the human body is given. But I did not serve Radha and Krishna. What did I do? I drank poison knowingly. Meaning I knew. I do know. I can't give the excuse that nobody told me that life is meant for devotional service. I know that. But still, I involved myself in sense gratification. Still I drank this poison. Still I am taking it. So this is Narottam Das Thakur. This is how he presents himself. So, how should we then see ourselves? So therefore, yes, to achieve this blissful state of Krishna consciousness, then we have to take the full program. This is what is advised. If you want to be, of course, as I said, one can come once in a while to the temple and jump into the kirtan, and that's very nice. And then take prasadam up to the neck and go away floating in some ecstasy. But if we are not steady, then very soon our minds and our senses are dragging us somewhere else. And then we feel very bad We become very ashamed of ourselves, thinking of ourselves so dirty and fallen. And in that state, we come crawling back to the temple and try to get ourselves spiritually rejuvenated again. So this is pendulum. You see, like the old clocks, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. This is not nishta. This is not steady platform. So if there's no nishta, then how can we speak of ruchi? How can we speak of asakti? So to achieve this, yes, this fixed position, and then the full palette, the full program of Krishna consciousness is there. And Shravanadi, it is said, it all begins with hearing, and that means also this hearing. My original point is about class. That we see, especially here in Amsterdam. Sunday feast is packed up. So many guests are there. But when there's, in the week class, not so many people are coming. Because thinking is hard. Hard work for the brain, especially when you have a brain of bubble gum, chewed up bubble gum. But you see, this is not intellectualism. This is not like studying some complex subject matter, mundane subject matter in a university. This is a mistake. It is not like that. One just has to hear, like Prabhupada said about his relationship to his spiritual master. Because his spiritual master, his way of preaching was to, sometimes he was speaking in highly ornate, called sadhu bhasya, highly ornate, high-level Bengali, which is almost Sanskrit. I mean, it is... Bengali is a language very close to Sanskrit anyway. And then there's two levels, the Loka Bhasa and Sadhu Bhasa. So the Sadhu Bhasa, that is practically Sanskrit, with some Bengali connecting words. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would speak in this very high-level Sanskrit. Suddenly he would switch in the same lecture, he would switch to English. And also very sophisticated English language. Sometimes he would speak in pure Sanskrit. So he might switch between these different styles in the course of one lecture. As the mood struck him, switched languages. So, for Bengali speaking audience he was preaching to, of course the Bengali speaking is already difficult enough, but then if he switched to Sanskrit or to English, they would be lost. And of course then the subject matter he's speaking of, though his presentation, because his mission was to capture the intellectual class, the sophisticated class of in India there are different regions, and of course now this is much less now, but previously anyway, in years past, Bengal was considered the cream of Indian society. There was so many Bengali intellectuals, philosophers, writers, poets. Rabindranath Tagore, who actually comes from Thakur, but anyway, Rabindranath Tagore, he won the Nobel Prize. I believe he was the first Indian to win Nobel Prize for his poetry and writings. So Bengal had this distinction of being an intellectual center of India. Of course, problem now, recent years, Bengal has become communist. Communist Party has been in charge in India, in Bengal since the 1970s. And therefore the cultural level has very much degraded. And Bengali is, they're no longer so much respected. in the rest of India anymore. And they have a saying that if you bring together two Bengalis, this is a saying in other parts of India, that as soon as, say, Maharashtra, so say two Bengalis come to Maharashtra to do something, and they're working in the same office, and all the other people there are Maharashtrian people. Then the Maharashtrians say, everybody says around India, those two Bengalis will form a political party. And they will agitate and make revolution, make trouble for everyone else. Once I remember they brought some cooks. The first Gaur Purnima festival I attended in 1975. So the cooks were brought from UP, from Uttar Pradesh. I believe they were from Mathura, Vrindavan area. They were Brahmins. And so they were doing the cooking. And of course, Bengalis were assisting. They had Bengalis who would cut the vegetables and clean. So there was some strife. Some strife broke out between these UP Brahmanas and the Bengalis. And it was brought to Srila Prabhupada's attention. And I believe it was Bhavananda Maharaj. So he came to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, our cooks from UP, they don't like these Bengalis. And Prabhupada said, what to speak, they don't like the Bengalis, I don't like the Bengalis, and I am Bengali. So Bengali culture has fallen down. Anyway, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used to speak in this way to captivate the intellectual class, because Vaishnavism, the Vaishnava faith, Vaishnava religion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, had become perceived by the aristocratic class as being just for simpletons, poor people. Like I mentioned Maharashtra, that's interesting, that is the case there. And so it used to be that way in Bengal too. Some maybe 100 or 75 years ago even. The way it is now in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, there is a powerful, a widespread, a local Vaishnava movement. They're called the Vakaris. They are followers of Tukaram, and Tukaram is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in a spiritual way, a mystical way, he was initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, Tukaram lived after Mahaprabhu's pastimes. But in the local history of Tukaram, it is said he was initiated by a divine personality named Chaitanya, who appeared to him. And this Chaitanya initiated him into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And so Prabhupada writes that the Sankirtan of movement of Tukaram and his followers, the Vakaris, it exactly resembles the Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have drum, two-headed drum, and they have cartels, and they Vakari means they walk. They walk to Pandharpur from wherever they are. Maharashtra is a rather large state. So their vow of these Vakaris is to walk from wherever they are in Harinam procession. So you see them walking on the streets, the roads, country roads, and they're chanting as they go. But these Vakaris in Maharashtrian society, they're at the bottom. They're considered, they're from low class, farmer class people, Shudra class. And I have seen in doing programs in Maharashtra that the high class people, when you try to get them to do kirtan, they know what kirtan is and they respect it. But because of their class consciousness, they're thinking, oh, this is embarrassing for us. Because if we get into kirtan, then people will think we are Vakaris. We belong to the low class. So it's a funny situation there. But kirtan is so much identified with the low class. So anyway, in Bengal it became like that because of the sahajas, prakriti sahajas. They gradually came up. Prabhupada said within 250 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the prakriti sahajas started to become prominent. And their presentation of Sankirtan and the philosophy and practice of Krishna consciousness was of course corrupted, very low class, and gave a bad name. So then the only people who were interested anymore were low class people. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur began the process of rectifying that, and his transcendental son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was extremely successful in fulfilling his father's desire. So anyway, I've gone on a very long digression. There's a very huge footnote to just a simple point I wanted to make. That Prabhupada said that when he used to hear his spiritual master, he said, often what my Guru Maharaj was saying would puzzle my brain. I could not follow. Hare Krishna. But I would go on hearing. I would go on hearing. And because, and he said, my spiritual master marked that. Because in Lilamrita, when there was Gaudiya Mat Parikram at Vrindavan, then sannyasis were taking out the pilgrims. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching, and there was an announcement. One sannyasi came and announced in the class that all those who are interested to go to one holy place, Sheshashayi, then you please assemble and we will go. So many people got up. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was lecturing, he was speaking, and many people got up to leave. But Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan Day at the time, he was not initiated yet. So he stayed. He sat and went on hearing, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur marked that. He noted that. He made mention of this to his ring of disciples, personal associates, that others go away, but he stays and hears. This is very good. So you see, this is a very important qualification. That whether we understand or don't understand, to hear. Prabhupada, even he corrected his Western disciples in a lecture, public lecture he was giving in India. So he switched to the Hindi language because the people were speaking Hindi. And the Western disciples who were there on the stage, some of them started to get up, to go, like, oh, this is Hindi, well, then this is not for us, and they were going to go. And Prabhupada said, no, you sit down, you hear. He said, whether you understand or not, this sound vibration is purifying, you will benefit. So whether we understand or not, either due to language or due to the depth of the subject matter, we should go on hearing. And getting back to Bengal, I have visited Bangladesh. many years ago actually. And Bangladesh, as compared to West Bengal, is much more traditional. In one sense, of course, it is very much lower class because it is ruled by Muslims. But there are a lot of millions of Hindus there. And these Hindus are not like the Hindus you see anywhere else. For them, Dharma means Sankirtan. For them, God, the worshipable deity, there's only one, and that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they never mind with Durga Puja, Kali Puja, this, that. They never mind with so many demigods. They don't pay attention to that. They're not concerned with that. Whereas even in West Bengal, also Bengal, but West Bengal, where you see this is the difference. In West Bengal, the Hindus are predominant, and that means all the Hindu nonsense. Ram Krishna and Vivekananda and Kali Puja and all this nonsense, any kind of nonsense, is also. And now, and when I spoke of communism before, how Bengal has become communist, this is also the Brahmins. The leaders of the Communist Party in Bengal today are Jyoti Basu and Buddhadev Bhattacharya. Now these are Brahmins, Brahmin names. They have taken this atheistic materialism as their philosophy. Very staunch communists. So this is the bad side. Although West Bengal is Hindu oriented, Hindu dominated, but these Hindus have embraced all sorts of nonsense. Whereas in East Bengal, in Bangladesh, the Hindus are a minority. They're under this, Muslim rule, which is for them, it puts them in a precarious position. So they cling to the real religion, which is that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the real Dharma, Yuga Dharma. So anyway, I have visited Bangladesh, and I have seen there, I was amazed to see how these people can hear. They'll have ISKCON will have all-night programs. And sannyasi after sannyasi after sannyasi, when they have big programs, will lecture. His Holiness Jaipataka Maharaj, Subhag Maharaj, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, different sannyasis, whoever is there, Prabhu Vishnu Maharaj. And there, many of them, the guest sannyasis, are speaking in English, and there is some translation, but that is quite tedious, you see. And these Bengalis, they're simple people from the village. So they're sitting there, through first English and then Bengali translation, and then English, Bengali translation, English. But it's amazing. They just sit and they sit. Nobody gets up. Nobody's restless, because they know this is the process. They know that this is They know that this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. It all begins with Shravanam, hearing. So they're well practiced in this discipline. So this is our, in Western world, Western people, when you compare them in general to Indian people, the one clear difference you see, Westerners are so restless. They're so much pulled here and there by the minds and senses. And of course, in this age, the personality of Kali, he gives facility to restless people. He gives them a kind of intelligence where in their restlessness they can, build up a restless civilization. Like Prabhupada used to say, when he first came to New York, he said he said, all day I'm hearing these cars whoosh, 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 back and forth, back and forth. They never finish their business, he said. Just constantly whoosh, 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 back and forth. Restless, restless, restless. And building up big, big buildings like you would see in New York. Erecting skyscrapers, old skyscrapers, which, from Indian point of view is still a very usable building. But no, it's now too old. We have to rip it down and put a new one. You see, you go to Calcutta, they're using buildings from the British Raj time. Still keeping them. They look very dilapidated, but people still live in them. You see. But in restless Western civilization, build up, pull down, build up, pull down, build up. Just keep busy, 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 busy. And why? Don't ask. To that question, nobody really has a clear answer. Why? Of course, well, it's for making money. And with money, they can get the sense gratification they want. So this is the problem in the Western world, is that we are very restless. And this is a disqualification. The mind is pulling us here and there. And then we cannot take full advantage of this process. And so now we're coming to the theme. After that long, long, long prologue, we're actually coming. We've just come to the theme of today's verse. I haven't even read the verse yet. Already gave a 20-minute class. Now we'll come to the verse where Krishna says, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. So please repeat. Manushanam, of men. Sahasreshu, out of many thousands. Kaschit, someone. Yatati, endeavors. Siddhaye, for perfection. Vyatatam, of those so endeavoring. Api, indeed. Siddhanam, of those who have achieved perfection. Kaschit, someone. Mam, me. Beti, does know. Tattvataha, in fact. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Purport. There are various grades of men, and out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. And hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge and understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, but at the same time, He is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna, although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of the impersonal Brahman. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the primeval Lord Govinda. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiyartha Govinda Sarvakarna Karman. It is very difficult for the non-devotees to know Him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it's practiced factually according to the rules and regulations, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-101, Shruti Smriti Purnanadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Upatat Yaiva Kalpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. It is not possible for the Brahman realized impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna. Muyanti yat sureha mam tu vedana kashchana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And one does not know him. And if one does know him, then samahatma sadurlabha. Such a great soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, tattvataha, even though one is a great scholar or philosopher. Only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna, and the cause of all causes is in his omnipotence and opulence, and in his wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore it is said, Atak Shri Krishna namadi na bhavya drayam yindrai sevan mukhi jivado svayameva spuratyada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-234. So it's interesting that yesterday, when I was in The Hague, I gave class on another verse, 9th chapter, verse number 3. But I connected that verse, Shradadhana Purusha, Dharmasyasya Purantapa, Aprapyamam Nivartante, Mrityu Sangsara Vartmani. Which means, those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies, therefore they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So it's remarkable that when I was giving this lecture yesterday, I connected this verse to the verse we're reading tonight. I quoted this, Manushanam Shahashreshu, Kashchid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatamapa. Yatatamapi siddhanam kashchinmam veti tattvata. Because what this means, manushanam shahashretru, and even kaschid yatati siddhaye, the ordinary class of man who is interested in just the animal affairs, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, as well as the impersonalists, who have negated that sinful way of life and are trying to follow the pure spiritual path to the impersonal Brahman realization or Paramatma realization. But their problem is, as Srila Prabhupada so clearly explains in the purport, is that they don't have faith in Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because they don't have that prerequisite faith, then yatatamapi siddhanam, even you are able to gather, they're hard to find, these siddhas, those who have achieved some perfection in impersonalism and mysticism. They're very hard to find in this world. But if you do find them and you bring them together, in a big group, a big convention, like Kumbh Mela, for example,